Here we go.
Great, usual question. Can you all see the screen? Thank you very much. So today I'm going to be talking about how you can literally double your profit in 5 steps. Like a lot of these things, it's a bit information dense, but stick with me because the things I talk about, you will be able to use straight away. It's all proven. It's stuff I use myself. It's stuff I've done with a lot of my 180 plus success story amongst clients. And please, as always, at the end, it'd be great for me if you had some questions. If you don't, I'll pop into the chat groups, the chat rooms at the end and answer any questions there. I'll pop around there. There's no one new today, so I won't run through who this is. Just as always, know that I've been around for a long time, doing this a long time, and I've been moderately successful at it. So, doubling your profits. There are literally 5 critical steps to doing that. One is to look at your leads. One is to look at your conversions. One is to understand your average transaction value, which we spoke about quite a lot last week. Understand the number of transactions and understand your profit margins. So the baseline is you have to have some handle on your current numbers. You need to understand your average transaction value. In other words, every time you sell something, on average, what's it worth to your business? You need to understand your margin. In other words, how much are you charging above cost? You need to understand your gross profit, and you need to understand your costs, which ones are variable and which ones are fixed. It's not that difficult. There is a difference between margin and markup. People confuse the term markup with margin, whereas margin is really markup's calculated by taking your cost of goods sold and then adding on a percentage increase to it, and you decide what it is. So the formula is cost of goods sold plus 10% equals my selling price. So if it costs me $100 to make something or to deliver something and I add 10% to it, I sell it for $110. That means my markup is 10%. Your sales minus the cost of goods sold equals your gross profit margin. So they can be quite different, but markup and margin are different. Markup is your profit on cost. Your margin is your profit on sales. So we were talking earlier on about leads, conversion rate, customers, number of transactions, average sale value, total revenue, margin, and profit. These are the numbers we'll play with. Please don't run away screaming. They're just going to be done in graph form. We're not going to be doing any calculation for you. But they're the basic things that make up a profitable business. Okay, the only thing I haven't put there is the costs, which of course is what you take out from your bottom line of profit. But how many leads have you got? So the baseline here, which we'll be working with, is this business generates 1,000 leads. Its conversion rate is 25%, which gives it 250 customers. On average, they do 10 transactions each at $100, so they generate 250 grand in revenue at a 25% margin, which means they make $62,500 for every 1,000 leads, which is pretty good. So how do you generate leads? There's lots of ways. You can run an email campaign, you can run a SMS or text campaign, you can do direct calls, you can do cold calls, you can joint venture, use other people's audiences, do a cross promotion with someone who has the same customers as you but does not directly compete with you. You can do direct mail, letterbox, lumpy mail, networking on things like Be Connected World, of course. You can use your social media. You can add ads on social media. You can be doing things there. YouTube channels are particularly good if you want to use to pick up things. You can understand campfires and watering holes. Campfires are where people choose to be, and watering holes is where they have to be. And then, of course, there's webinars, workshops, etc. The bottom line is it's really, really important you understand which lead generation works best for you. And in general, it's normally a combination of 2 or 3 of them. If you sent, say, a direct mail to 1,000 prospects, the industry stats are a typical response rate for direct mail used to be about 18%. So that's 180 new leads. Email with a good subject line has an open rate of 15 to 27%, which means a 3 to 5% response rate. Choose your method. Is direct mail maybe better for you, or is email better for you? Think about it. So on the way to doubling your profits, things to think about is, okay, how do we increase things by just 10%? It's a tiny amount. So if we could increase our leads by 10%, that would mean 1,100 leads instead of 1,000 leads. So this will reflect conversion rate we need to talk about. If you're not closing enough people, you need to improve your closing ability. And if you haven't closed someone, they need to go on to a follow-up nurture campaign of emails where you stay in touch and keep in touch with them. It used to be that the typical prospect didn't buy till they received a minimum of 6 marketing messages from you. Now it's 10 to 12 these days. The follow-up used to be that, most salespeople would stop following up after 3 calls, and the smart ones did 6. Now it's 9, 10, 11, or 12 phone calls. In my case, I'll keep getting in touch with prospects until they either tell me to go kill myself or they die themselves, one or the other. But you need to be persistent. So if you're not following up with a prospect or a client at least 6 times, then you're leaving a lot of money on the table. So if we were to improve our conversion rate from 25% or 1 in 4 to just 27.5%, that's 2.5% more, right? 10% more, sorry. The number of customers that we were now addressing would grow from 250 to 302. So already we're starting to make more money. So the next thing is the number of transactions. Well, there's really only 2 ways to increase your number of transactions. That is to sell more things to more people or sell more things to your existing customers. That's really it. So if you've got a number of products that naturally lead one from the other, once someone's bought from you once, you should be able to start talking to them and selling them the next product. It's always easier to sell more to people who know, like, and trust you because they've bought from you once than get a new person. But by the same token, if the pool of people you've got as existing customers is small, and you don't have a lot of additional products or services to sell, then you've got to go out there and get more clients. And of course, not everyone will keep buying from you or stay a client forever. So we need to have more people coming in. So to increase your transactions, you must have a plan to how to find, attract, and sell to more people, and also sell more to your existing clients. If you're an appointment-based business, and that means hairdressers or beauty spas, dentists, chiropractors, physios, accountants, financial planners, some types of coaches, then white spaces are the absolute enemy of your business. The more white spaces you have in your daily appointment calendar, the more money you're leaving on your table. So you have to be focusing, if you're an appointment-based business, on how do I get rid of the white spaces? Well, one of the things you can do if you're someone who's got a returning business, we'll talk about, say, a hairdresser in a moment, is to try and book the next appointment at the end of this appointment. Very important. Don't wait for them to call you or chase them up. At the time of the appointment where they're getting the result from dealing with you, try and book the next appointment, all right? You can then call clients who haven't been in for a while. Hey, Mary, we haven't seen you for 3 months. What's going on? You can offer a special price for your quieter stays. Hair salons often have a special price on Tuesdays. For whatever reason, that's traditionally the quietest day of the week for them. This one strategy of quiet days actually can increase your income or salon's incomes by 70%. So if you're working with a hair salon, like I said, people, the difference between a good haircut and a bad haircut, for men, they say is 3 weeks. So my barber is really smart. Carl's really smart. He goes, can I book in for 3 weeks' time, Geoff? Every time when I finish the call, every time, all right? 9 times out of 10, I'll say yes, because it stops me having to think about it. I just know 3 Saturdays from now, I've got to be there at 11 o'clock in the morning and he'll look after me. But any hairdresser can do that. But the same thing if you're a chiropractor. If someone's going through a treatment, okay, or they've just come in for a one-off, you can say, I'd like to check on you in 3 weeks or 2 weeks or whatever. Use the appointment you've got to book the next appointment or the next series of appointments. It's really important. Ring up people who haven't been in and seen you for a while. Figure out your quietest day and offer a special deal for that day. These things will actually improve the your appointment calendar and get rid of those white spaces. Here's an example of florists, and I'm going to be a little bit sexist. Most guys buy flowers for their better half, maybe once a year. Okay, so if you're a florist, and I've done this with a couple, I wanted to set up a subscription program, and we called it like Who's Out of the Doghouse. In other words, Once a year, the client selects a pre-arranged package of flowers with a shop box of chocolates and gifts. And that package literally is aimed at a special date that calendar year. It might be Valentine's Day, Mother's Day, a birthday, an anniversary, or out of the blue, just thinking of your day, whatever you want to call it. The client pre-picks the arrangements, the cards and the extras, and the florist basically charges them a monthly fee to ensure that the arrangements are delivered as they want on time without the client needing to do any more than receive a confirmation email saying, next week we're sending this flowers, is everything okay? It's really important. So there's a subscription service rather than blokes getting in the doghouse and having to run through. The florist treats this like a 12-month subscription. It just charges the client's debit card or credit card a set amount each month, which makes it a really affordable no-brainer. Instead of like, oh my God, my guilt's got me, I've got to spend $250 on flowers. It's like, you know, $200 worth of flowers spread over 12 months is really quite easy. It's $20 a month. That's an easy thing to do. Men love this because the entire year is planned and they're not going to end up in the doghouse because they forgot birthday or something like that. But best of all, they don't have to make that dreaded last-minute dash to pick something up for each occasion. The florist can actually offer more than one day and just build it into the subscription. So you make sure you're covered for your Valentine's Day, your birthday, and your anniversary, and your mum as well. So there's 4 things you can cover with that. If you got that too, that would sort of fill up the sort of appointment thing in your calendar. But imagine if you sold that to some guys, you reckon they'd tell their mates? Of course they would. So you're going to create some networking and some more leads. So can you use this strategy in your business? So imagine we just increase the number of transactions per customer by 10%. So instead of 10, we get 11. This means we've got to understand our average transaction value. An average transaction value is simply our sales divided by the number of sales or number of transactions we've made. It's the average price of what you sell. The quickest way to raise your average transaction value is to raise your prices. If you sell a product for $100 and the net profit on it, say 15%, you increase the price by 5%, that additional 5% is pure profit. And your net profit just increased from 15 to $20. And that's actually an increase of 33% by one simple, small change. As you've heard me say before, nearly every single business I've worked with is underselling their products and services. They're underpricing, and they could do very well from a 10% increase. Here's an example with a gym. You know, let's say you own a gym and you offer a membership for say $60 and you've got 300 clients enrolled. Well, that equals about 18 grand revenue. So 25% net profit would be about $4,500 a month. So if you raise your price by $4 a month, which is like 6.6%, you've just increased your net profit by 26% or $1,200 a month. So that $4,500 a month now is $5,700 a month. If you're worried about that $4 price leading to cancel, people leaving and cancelling their memberships, for $4, that's not going to happen. But understand in this scenario, if you've got 300 clients, you would have to lose 63 of those clients just to get back to where your original net profits were before you raised the prices. Do you think 63 people are going to leave a gym over $4 a month price increase? Not going to happen. So this is the math that's really, really important. Raising your prices has a much stronger effect over where you are, particularly if you've worked your numbers now, any price increase becomes pure profit. So if we said the average transaction value is now $110, look at the difference in the revenue. You've just jumped from $250,000 to 365 grand, just by simply adding 10% to your leads, your conversion rate, your number of customers, your number of transactions, and raising your price. All right. Margins, of course, have to pay for a number of things. They've got to pay for your expenses. And I haven't done a chart on those, but I want you to understand that out of the profit is where you have to pay these things. And variable expenses are quite simply the expenses that go up and down depending on what is required for you to produce your product or service. And your fixed expenses, even though they go up and down, are things like rent, electricity, car payments, staff payments, your salary, things like that. But it also includes a lot of things like subscriptions, insurances, your mobile phone bill, those sorts of things. And most people, particularly with insurance, mobile phone bills and car insurance, are lazy. We get the reminder and we just pay it. What you can do is look at these things and see if you can actually negotiate a better price. You know, ring up Telstra and say, you know, I'm thinking about leaving. What can you do for me? They'll do something for you. You might have to go through a few phone calls and hang on the phone for 40 minutes, but you'll end up with a better deal. Okay. With insurances, shop around. Don't just accept the latest extended third party or warranty or whatever that comes through. Do that sort of thing. If you've got loans, see if you can consolidate them, because a lot of businesses have 3, 4, or even 5 separate loans running. But if they consolidate them into one loan, they actually pay less money out and they pay them off quicker. So look at all of your costs and expenses and decide, does it still serve me? Can I negotiate a better deal? Can I consolidate it? And in some cases, can I get rid of it entirely? Do I really need that gym membership? Sorry to the guy I was talking about before, the 63 members, but do I need the gym membership? Do I need to have that subscription to the Daily Telegraph that I'm paying for? Just quietly, no, you don't. It's a brag. But there are things you can look at and do in terms of reducing your fixed and variable costs. Your variable costs actually go down as a percentage of what you're earning the more you sell. So sales works. So this is what it looks like. If we've just increased each of these things by 10%, your total revenue's gone from $250,000 to 365. You increase your margin then by 10% by consolidating and working on your costs, your variable and fixed costs. Look at the difference to the profit. 62.5 to over $100,000 simply by adding 10% to those things. Now, when I say simply, yes, it takes hard work. Yes, you've got to stick with it. No, you can't do it today and expect it to be different tomorrow, but it does work. You can, by taking this 10% attitude and thought process, literally, it's almost double the amount of profit you're going to make. So imagine this. Imagine if you could increase your profit by 50%, which is after all the theme of today. There's ways you can do that. You can do the whole McDonald's thing. You can cross-sell, or you can upsell, and you can downsell, and you can side-sell. There's all sorts of things you can add to your main offer to add more value to it, to increase the dollar value of it. Remember the magic average transaction value. The higher you can get that and the lower you keep your cost, the more profit you make. So you can do those things. And quite frankly, upsells and cross-sells and things like, if done intelligently, can increase your revenue by up to 30%. Do you think you could achieve a 1% overall increase each week? So you've taken the 10%, you've gone in and you've worked really hard on it. And then for the next year, you've decided, I'm going to increase things, each of those things, my leads, my conversion rate, etc., by roughly 1% a week, with two weeks off vacation. So instead of being 52 weeks, call it 50 weeks. What that means is you're going to see probably a 50% increase in your profit. Looks like this. At the end of 12 months, if you've started with your initial 10% growth and you've added it 1% a week, your leads are now 1,500. Your conversion rate's 37.5. You've now got 562 customers. They each buy 15 things from you. Your average transaction, average sale value has gone up to $150. Your revenue's gone from 250 to 1.2 million. Your margin goes to 37, which means your profit is 474 grand. The numbers work. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm not saying it'll work for everyone, but if you just initially start, how can I make each of these things increase by 10%? And once that's done, how can I increase these things by 1% a week? You will be amazed at how much more money you are making and how much more money you've got sitting in your bank account. Look, numbers are the language of business. I've said this more and more times, and the more you know your numbers, and the more you'll be able to use them to improve your results. If you're just sort of spraying and saying or setting and forgetting, you're not going to get any. You have to understand your numbers, especially things like average transaction value. And the other one, which I didn't mention today, lifetime value. How much is a customer worth to you for the period of time they stay with you? As always, if you need a hand with any of this, or you just want to chat about your business in general, let's have a chat. I'm available. Happy to have one with you. Not a sales call. See if I can help you out. It's something I only do for Be Connected World because Jay's one of my clients, and it's something I said I would offer to the people that work in his business. That's it. Any questions?
Okay. All right, if you've got any questions, just raise your hands there. And